What's up, everybody? We are back with some more NFL DFS preseason picks and lineup advice for DraftKings and FanDuel. Preseason week 2 is upon us. This time we have a single game tonight on Thursday. Philadelphia Eagles, New England Patriots, here to give you all the tips and tricks you need for tonight's showdown slate. Welcome, I am Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy. And we had a great first week of preseason DFS, both in these videos and in our website content. So a lot of screenshots from our members at OccupyFantasy.com. And we're looking to keep that rolling here in preseason week 2. What we're going to do in this video is talk about position by position. In last week's preseason DFS videos, we gave 4 or 5 top plays per slate. This slate is a little bit different, and I will get into that here in a second. But we'll go position by position, what we're looking at here on Thursday morning, and what we will be looking for in the pregame news to see if our lineups will be changing. So let's jump into it. And again, we'll start position by position. And if you haven't played preseason DFS Showdown, go back and watch last week's Hall of Fame video, or our daily plug tonight will have strategy for these types of games. And in tonight's game, if we start from a high level, both teams, if we look at coaching staff and we look at last week, playing time trends were hard to decipher. We have the new coaching staff in New England with Rob Mayo. We figured that he would go the Bill Belichick route, rest a lot of guys, but that's not what happened last week. And there was some inaccurate or just unknown reporting on both sides, both New England and Philadelphia, as to how much the starters would play, how much players on offense would play. And so it makes it difficult to figure out what's going to happen tonight in preseason week 2. Now, we do have some more coaching quotes, but we do have beat reporters still guessing, and we're still guessing on how much some of these guys will play. So, with all that being said, with a lot of guys expected to play tonight at all positions, that makes the defenses especially important, as they always are in the Hall of Fame games and as they are in these early preseason showdown matchups where you don't have guys playing a full half or 3/4 of a game, and you need teams or players who are playing the entire game, like the defenses, to give you as many points as possible. So the Eagles and Patriots are going to be two of the most popular plays tonight. We're going to see them 60, 70% owned, as we have in most showdown slates so far this preseason. And the Eagles get the edge for us. If you just read the practice reports, basically every unit for New England was struggling. Tons of sacks and turnovers in the joint practices with Philadelphia this week. So we will give the edge to the Eagles here. But the Patriots defense obviously in play as well against backup quarterbacks. Now, for the kickers, New England has 2. Let's watch pregame warmups to see if one of these guys is going to sit while the other one kicks. We think both will kick. Last week, one kicked extra points, the other kicked field goals. They could flip that this week. That's a disaster for showdown purposes. However, for Philadelphia, Jake Elliott is the sole kicker. Now, Philly does go for it a lot on 4th downs, even in the preseason. So Elliott's floor and ceiling is lowered compared to your average preseason showdown kicker with just one on the roster. But Elliott is a guy that's going to play the entire game, which is rare to say on this particular slate. Let's talk about the quarterbacks now. This is the most important position, generally, highest floor option outside of the defenses and kickers for showdown slates. And we'll start with Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts and the starters are expected to rest. Kenny Pickett, Tanner McKee, Will Grier are the remaining quarterbacks on the roster. Let's just put them into the lineup so we can talk about them. And you know who I'm talking about. Will Grier did not play last week. Kenny Pickett, Tanner McKee are battling for this number 2 quarterback role in Philadelphia. And if Hurts is sitting, we expect this to be some sort of 50-50 split between Pickett and McKee. If we go to our opportunity and snap count dashboard on OccupyFantasy.com, this is available for our members. You can see how much each player played in previous weeks and in previous years of the preseason. And we see here that it was basically a 50-50 split. Kenny Pickett, 53% of the snaps last week. Tanner McKee, 47%. We are tentatively expecting the same outcome here. But, again, because of joint practices this week, we know not everything is the same from the previous week, which is a big mistake a lot of preseason DFS players make. Honestly, a big mistake a lot of preseason DFS content creators make. Last week does not equal this week. And that's where some of our biggest edges come in. Preseason week 2 and preseason week 3 because of that bias. Now, this could happen, but we could see Will Grier play as well. We're expecting tentatively this to happen, and that makes Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee 2 of the best quarterbacks on the slate. But don't be surprised if they play less than they did last week, just because things do change. Now, if we look on New England's side, obviously there's a big commotion from fans, beat reporters, that Drake May only played 6 snaps last week. Jacoby Brissett played, or 9% of the snaps. Jacoby Brissett played 6%. We saw Bailey Zappi get a vast majority, which again, reporters did not expect, which made last week difficult. And then Joe Milton cleaned up the game with 30%. Let's go back to DraftKings now, and we'll look at New England's quarterbacks. And we're expecting more of both Brissett and May this week. We've seen some reporters say expect Drake May for up to 2 quarters worth of action, which would be fantastic. We saw him run a lot in college. But again, they were wrong last week. These are just estimates. Gerard Mayo said he wants to see both of more of these guys. We could see a quarter each. We could see a half each. We don't know. They're also trying to showcase Bailey Zappi for potential trade, which didn't work out great last week based on his production. And Joe Milton has been electric, just point blank, especially with his legs. And that makes him the better DFS option of him and Zappi, even if he plays a little bit less than Zappi. So all 4 quarterbacks are going to play for an unknown amount of time. The nice thing about tonight, it is a national game. Generally, even in preseason when there are national games, sometimes we get national reporters who have more access to give us pregame information on playing time that the local beat reporters just do not have. So let's hope we get some information pre-lock on how these quarterback rotations will shake out for New England. If we had to rank them now, as of Thursday morning, we would say Drake May, and then Joe Milton, and then Zappi, and then Brissett. But again, this could change very easily. As for running backs, again, this will shock you, but we have split backfields on both sides. If we go to Philly, Barkley, we do not expect to play. Gainwell, we expect to play minimally, if at all. Played a few snaps last week. But it's going to be Shipley, Nichols, and Milton. And they also have another running back on the roster, Tyrion Davis-Price, who was not in the DraftKings player pool, wasn't there last week. Nothing's changed. Still not in there. He is over there on FanDuel. But those guys are going to split the work. Now, if we look at last week, Shipley obviously scored the touchdown. We saw Nichols get more action. Trends, if they apply, like Kendall Milton this week, and he's going to be the lowest owned of the group. So just keep that in mind if you're playing high-risk contests. On the New England side, we could have 6 running backs play. If the starters do play, that's Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson, Kevin Harris, Jermichael Hasty, Terrell Jennings. They also signed one more running back who is also, surprisingly, not in the DraftKings player pool. We could see 6 guys get action here. But if the starters are limited with Jacoby Brissett, that's less work for Stevenson and Gibson. That means more work for Harris, Hasty, Jennings, and the last running back on their roster. This all is just adding up to say this is a slate with a lot of uncertainty, a slate where many players are going to be playing. That makes it difficult for low-risk contests. I'll close it out here with some wide receivers that we want to discuss. We'll look at their opportunities from last week, and we'll figure out who we think has the best chance for upside in this game, especially for high-risk contests. But first, a water break, of course. Preseason, regular season, we got to get the hydration, water breaks in as well. All right, part of our opportunity dashboard is our target data. Only site in the industry with preseason targets and air yards. So make sure you check it out, occupyfantasy.com. This is New England, and we see last week, Keyshawn Boutte, 6 targets, led the team, 58 air yards. Love to see that. Javon Baker, who was talked up all camp as one of their rookies, 5 targets, 76 air yards. Jalen Polk saw 3 targets. Jaquay Jackson caught the touchdown. Was like less than 1% owned, even on that slate, that 2-game slate in preseason week 1. 62 air yards. That's impressive. And Jalen Reagor, the only other Patriots receiver with more than 1 target with 2. And we look at Philly. Scroll down here. We see John Ross, 94 air yards. Yes, that John Ross, first-round speedster, formerly of Cincinnati, unretired, 94 air yards. Didn't convert a bunch. Did lead the team in receiving, which is kind of annoying. We would hope that he would have 1 or 2 catches, not lead the team and go overlooked. But any box score watchers will likely play John Ross. The one we are super interested about is Jacob Harris. This is our high-risk play of the slate. Former tight end, formerly of the Rams, 6 targets, 64 air yards. Going to be lower owned than his teammates, John Ross, likely Britton Covey, likely Johnny Wilson. Haven't seen many people talk about him. And beat reporters are talking him up. And again, 64 air yards, underperformed a little bit last week, and has performed in preseason in the past. So we're looking at receivers. Obviously, all the New England guys are fantastic plays. Boutte, Polk, Baker, they should get a ton of run no matter who's quarterbacking. Whereas Harris is going to go overlooked compared to Ross and compared to some of his other teammates. And the trends, if the playing time trends apply from last year and the previous years under Nick Sirianni, then Jacob Harris could be in line for even more snaps tonight. So Jacob Harris is our favorite high-risk wide receiver on tonight's showdown slate. All right. I think we covered most of it. If you have additional questions, go ahead and drop a comment below. I will monitor the channel throughout the day. Discord is the best way to reach us. OccupyFantasy.com/Discord. Link is in the description below. And that way you can chat with other members of the community, get direct input from our staff. Most importantly for preseason, get breaking updates. Our daily plug at OccupyFantasy.com, that'll post around 4 p.m. Eastern today. Rankings for all positions, low risk, high risk, captains, and flex. Playing time notes and expectations for every single player on the slate, plus the breaking news as it comes throughout pregame. Plus, we have the whole lineup strategy section in our daily plug, which tells you how to play in general preseason DFS Showdown contest, but also tonight's preseason Showdown contest. You saw the opportunity dashboard on screen. Get access to that for as little as $7 per week. Everything is included in our membership, all sports. And again, we put in the most work for preseason DFS, not to pat ourselves on the back. It's just a fact. And you get to access that for as little as $7 per week. Again, we know most of you just watch the free videos, just want the free picks. That's fine. You want that extra edge. You want to know everything. Go check out OccupyFantasy.com. All the links are in the description below. One final ask. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube before the regular season, and we will be doing a giveaway. It's free to do. It takes 1 second. Just click subscribe below this video. Helps us out. Secondly, helps you out. One, you'll get entered into the giveaway. But two, you'll get notified when we do these preseason DFS videos every single slate for the next couple of weeks. You don't want to miss those. And if you like the video, just give us a thumbs up. Appreciate it. Brian for Occupy Fantasy, thank you for listening, and good luck in tonight's Eagles and Patriots Showdown slate.